Hello, I'm Robert with 52 Wheels, and we are going to go over on how to clean the brake system on your bicycle. We get a lot of questions on this. What I have here is the guide brake off my bike, and you can see just how dirty it is in there. Let me put the camera. You can see all the dirt around the pistons. This is especially important if you are going to be changing your pads. So let's go ahead and get this started and get the pads out of here. There we go. You can do this on the bike. I just simply like to take it off. It's easier to do, and I always set everything so I have it so it's as I'm sitting on the bike, and that way I can take and set these out. And that way I know exactly which way they go back in. Alright. There we go. As you can see, it's pretty dirty in there. I'll get the camera in there. You can see a little bit closer. These haven't been cleaned yet this year. So what you do is you just need a little bit of water, some Dawn dish soap. I got mine in a nice little container here. And I have an assortment of brushes. So what you're going to do is, if I can get this unraveled a little bit here, you need something to put in between where the disc would sit, so when you push the pistons out, they're not going to fall out. So you can use a screwdriver or Phillips, that will fit in there. And the important thing is what you can see here is it's actually down in the groove, and the pistons won't actually fall all the way out. You can use, if you got a wrench that'll fit in there, you might have, I think these actually come with your brakes, you can put that in there. Anything that we'll use just to keep the pistons from pushing all the way out. So what we're going to do is we're going to pump these up so the pistons are all the way out. Oh, that one's getting a little close there. We'll pop that one all the way out. Let's get that back in there. We don't want it to come all the way out, then we'll have a problem. There we go. Make sure that screwdriver stays down in there. That way you want all the pistons to pump out so they're sitting out. There we go. You can see how they're all been moved out. So now what you can use is you use an old toothbrush. These are actually brushes for cleaning a hummingbird feeder. They're nice and soft, and they also have some Q-tips. So let's get started. And this is just regular dish soap. I like to use Dawn. If it's safe for the penguins, it's going to work for the brakes. And I like to clean the whole caliper. Get it all kind of cleaned up, get all the stuff off of it. And like I said, this is just regular dish soap. It ain't gonna hurt it any. You don't want to use a solvent like brake cleaner. That will actually dry your seals out, and then what that will do is the seals will get hard, they'll get cracked. Then the brakes won't function properly. So what we're doing is just trying to get all the dust and grime and stuff off of them so they work properly. It's not so much that you're cleaning them for the pressure on the way out. It's so when you release the brakes, the pistons will actually go back into the caliper smoothly. That's kind of the main reason to clean them. Because what will happen is if you don't clean them and you go to replace your pads and you're pushing the pistons back in, what you're doing is you're pushing that dirt back into the seals. And that's going to create a little bit of friction or stiction, and the seals won't retract properly. So what that's going to do is when you're in the middle of the corner or busting out that berm, this is going to help when you let off the brakes for it to be nice and smooth. You can see here my Q-tip is nice and clean now. So we're not getting any more dirt off them. It doesn't take much. You should really do this every time you replace your pads. That would be my recommendation. You can do it more often. I like to do mine a couple times a year. And depending on how much you're riding or the conditions you're in, you may want to do it more. And let's see here, let's get that back up. Kind of clean it off. Just use a regular old squirt bottle here. And get most of it off. And then I'll just wipe it down a little bit here. Get it all wiped off. Now if we go in there and look, you can actually see how clean the pistons are. So now what we need to do is we need to push those pistons back in. You want to be careful doing this, especially on a 4-piston setup, because I mean you can use a screwdriver, a wrench, or if you have the SRAM tools to do it, or XT tools, or whatever you have. This works great. You just want to be careful that you're not. You want to make sure that the rest of them don't come out all the way. Otherwise, like if you're pushing on this one, it might push this one out, and then it could fall out, and then you're really going to have some issues. So let's try this device right here. And that doesn't work the hottest. That's not that great. We might have some other things laying around here. What else do we got? I think what we're going to do, we're going to push that back in there. That way those can't come out. And I'm just going to use this screwdriver or even a tire iron. You're not going to mar anything up. So I'm going to put something in here to keep those from going out any farther. Let's see here. Maybe we'll put this in there. That'll keep those from coming out. And then we're just going to work these. It's probably kind of hard to see. We're going to work these back in. The tire lever. Yeah, there you can see that they're going back in. Now let's jump over to the other side and let's work those back in a little bit. Now if you got 2 tire irons, you can put 2 in there now, and you can just keep kind of working them back and forth. Get them pushed all the way back in. Keep working them. You can kind of see how some of the others, when you're pushing on, the other ones kind of move. So once they're cleaned up, now we know we're not getting any dirt into our pistons or on our seals. And this is really important if, like I said, if you're putting in new pads, you really want to get them all the way back in there when you put them in so you don't get any drag on the rotor. Now what I like to do is I'll pump them out again. I do this usually about 3 or 4 times. And that way what I'm doing is I'm getting fluid onto the pistons. So it's getting worked back into the seals again. Yeah, I think we'll just use this. This works pretty good. Fits in there about right. And I think what that does is that also helps gets a little bit of either mineral oil or brake fluid back on your seals, and that way they work even better. There we go. And you'll notice when you're doing this, the second or third time you're actually pushing the pistons back into the caliper, they're actually starting to move a lot easier. And that's because the seals are now getting a little bit of lubrication on them, and the pistons are getting it on there, so everything's starting to work a little bit easier. You can see how much better it went this time. So let's do it one more time. There we go. And we'll put this back in there again. Keep that from coming out all the way. This tire iron seems to be the ticket. There we go. Push them back and just keep working them back in there. And there we go. Just a little bit more. There. And Now you can see how much cleaner it is in there. The pistons are nice and clean. What we'll do is, I'm going to put the old pads back in because they still got some life left in them. And I'm running the CL Brakes VRX racing compound. I'm a little bit more of an aggressive rider. I'm not racing, but these seem to be working really well for me. They got the ceramic coated backing plate, and like I said, I always set everything so it's as I'm sitting on the bike, and I'm just going to drop these back in there and push my pistons, put my pin back in there. This doesn't have to be super tight when you put it in there, just snug is good. And then don't forget to put your circlip back on there. And now you're ready to go. They're all nice and clean. You can now pull the other side off and get your front brake done, or rear, whichever one happens to be. That's it. Thanks for tuning in.